band of proud hunters were forced to lay down their rifles and shoulder heavy logs instead. Their faces lost the tattoos that symbolized honor, and their hunting grounds were mercilessly logged to the ground. When endurance only brought deeper humiliation, and losing one's soul was more despairing than losing life itself, a former leader decided to use the blood of his entire tribe to secure a ticket to the ancestral spirit home. This desperate counterattack, a dawn bathed in blood, was destined to be a fight with no way back. The epic 2011 film Warriors of the Rainbow, Seediq Bale, Part 1. The Sun Flag begins in the untouched highland forests of Taiwan, untouched by so-called modern civilization. The young warrior Mona Rudao of the Mahebo tribe is as agile as a wild beast of the mountains. In a fierce battle against the Truku, he not only stands his ground but roars for his enemies to remember the name Mona Rudao, his defiance burning fiercely. Returning to the tribe with the head of his enemy, Mona Rudao completes the blood ritual to honor the ancestral spirits, and his mother personally tattoos the mark of manhood onto his face. According to Seediq belief, only those who uphold ancestral laws, protect their tribe, and guard the hunting grounds will be welcomed by the ancestral spirits when they cross the Rainbow Bridge after death. Just as Mona Rudao is full of vigor, following his father's advice to chase the deer with white markings around its eyes from his dreams, and preparing for a grand wedding feast, the world outside is turning upside down. In 1895, a treaty cedes this land, and the Japanese Empire sees it as new territory yet to be blessed by imperial grace. A Japanese military leader stands at the bow of a ship, arrogantly believing that while there may be armed resistance on the island, it is nothing more than scattered rebels, nothing to fear. What the empire truly covets are the endless timber and mineral treasures hidden deep in the mountainous heartland, divided among the indigenous tribes. But in the mountains, the old rules of feuds and alliances between tribes still hold sway. During a trade, Mona Rudao forms a bitter enmity with Temualis of the Toda tribe. This deep-seated hatred and division among the tribes would later become the invaders' deadliest weapon. As time passes, the Japanese military begins to push into the mountains, attempting to lay railways and develop the forest industry. The Japanese soldiers are stunned by the sea of red cherry blossoms covering the mountains. But to the Seediq, they look like blood, foretelling endless slaughter. To force the indigenous people into submission, the Japanese blockade Wushe, cutting off all trade between the Han Chinese and the Wushe tribes. How could the proud Mona Rudao tolerate outsiders acting so boldly at his doorstep? He leads his people in an ambush at the Gate of Men, using the terrain to their advantage. Defeating the invaders decisively and even proudly, showing a Han merchant the head of an enemy officer he had taken. But this is a detail many overlook when watching the film. At this stage, Mona Rudao's understanding of war is still limited to tribal conflicts. He doesn't realize he is not facing another tribe, but a vast empire with modern armies, artillery, and endless reinforcements. This gap in understanding plants the seeds for the later tragedy of Mahebo. Sure enough, the Japanese soon exploit the hatred between tribes, inciting the Truku to launch a night raid on Mahebo. Faced with relentless battles and brutal reality, the Seediq begin to falter. Yet resistance ultimately fails. The proud Mona Rudao is forced to bow his head, watching as outsiders rule over his hunting grounds, his bitterness festering into 2 decades of humiliation. Time flashes forward to 1930. Japan's civilizing reforms in Wushe appear to be a success. Education centers, clinics, post offices, and hotels are all in place, and the Japanese proudly believe they have civilized the darkest heart of the island. But beneath this veneer of civilization lies the blood and tears of the Seediq, exploited to the extreme. Once proud hunters are now forced to carry heavy logs from the mountain lumber camps, walking all day on treacherous paths for meager pay. Mona Rudao sighs in resignation, saying that carrying these logs for no pay has left him so poor even his hunting dog looks down on him. The great trees that once bore witness to the glory of their ancestors are now plundered by the Japanese for timber. Mona Rudao's eldest son, Tado Mona, and his brother Baso Mona accidentally damage a log while carrying it in the rain. The arrogant and prejudiced new police officer, Yoshimura, not only refuses to show any understanding but berates them, docks their pay, and demands compensation. Worse still, at the wedding of their tribesman Bayan Kenbo, Mona Rudao offers Yoshimura traditional chewed rice wine as a gesture of goodwill, only for Yoshimura to scorn it as filthy and violently knock it over, even striking Mona Rudao with his baton. The young Tado Mona and Baso Mona can no longer endure such humiliation and beat Yoshimura on the spot. This wedding brawl is the final straw. On the surface, it's a minor public order incident, but at its core, it's the inevitable result of the colonizers' utter contempt for indigenous culture. In the eyes of the Japanese police, the Seediq are nothing more than savage, raw barbarians, unworthy of any respect. Sensing the impending disaster, Mona Rudao, in an effort to protect his tribe, even humbles himself by bringing wine to apologize to Yoshimura. But Yoshimura is unmoved, vowing not to let Mahibo off and threatening to report the incident to higher authorities, which would destroy the entire tribe. At this moment, Mona Rudao finally realizes that years of submission have not secured his people's survival. Post offices, shops, and schools have never improved their lives. Instead, they have only deepened their sense of poverty and insignificance. The seeds of anger have taken root in the hearts of the younger generation. Children are bullied in school, and adults are exploited in their labor. Tado Mona roars at his father that if they don't kill all the Japanese, the Mahibo will be driven to extinction. Mona Rudao knows that rebellion means annihilation, even the destruction of their tribe. But he also knows that the lives of the Seediq were won with the blood of their ancestors, and a Seediq who loses their soul will be abandoned by the ancestral spirits. Rather than live in shame, he would lead his descendants to stain their battle clothes red and reclaim the pride of being a Seediq Bale, true human. Thus, a secret and brutal plan for revenge begins. Mona Rudao secretly contacts the chiefs of the blood-allied tribes, preparing to launch a full-scale attack on October 27th during the Wushe combined athletic meet. In this tense preparation phase, Mona Rudao seeks out Dakis no Mana, Hanako II, who is deeply influenced by Japanese culture. Faced with Dakis' fearful warning that the Japanese army is as numerous as leaves, Mona Rudao's eyes blaze as he coldly declares, This line ignites the Seediq's long-suppressed fury, but there is a brutal truth most viewers overlook. From the beginning, Mona Rudao knows this rebellion is doomed to fail. He is not fighting for victory, but for a desperate, spiritual redemption. During the secret preparations, Tado Nogan, chief of Hogo, vehemently opposes joining the rebellion. In response, Mona Rudao doesn't discuss tactics or odds of success. He simply points to the young Seediq men and asks if Tado Nogan can bear to see them without their tattoos, abandoned by the ancestral spirits in death. On the eve of battle, the entire tribe is shrouded in an eerie, solemn atmosphere. The Seediq women have long seen through the men's secret plans, but they do not interfere or weep. They silently stoke the charcoal in the fire pits, their steadfast eyes supporting their husbands and sons. As one Seediq woman silently cries out in her heart, it is women who weave the tapestry of men's courage. They know that the honor of their men is woven by their own hands, and now they must send their men on a path of no return. Late on the night of October 26th, the first shot of the rebellion is fired. Mona Rudao splits his forces, and the young warriors move like ghosts through the forest, silently taking out Japanese police outposts along the creek, cutting off all communication. In one ambush, Mona Rudao's eldest son, Tado Mona, personally slays a tyrannical Japanese patrolman. As the Japanese man's blood gushes out, Tadomona intones like an ancient chant, "As your blood flows, our hatred vanishes. Welcome your spirit to dwell within me." This detail is profoundly moving, revealing the unique indigenous view of life and death. For them, taking an enemy's head is not mere vengeance, but a sacred ritual. Through the baptism of blood, earthly hatred is erased, and the enemy's spirit, united with the ancestors, will forever guard these mountains. On the morning of October 27th, Wushe is shrouded in thick fog. This is the day of the annual Wushe combined athletic meet, and nearly all the Japanese in Wushe, along with their families, gather on the school's sports field. Superintendents and officials leisurely sip tea, admiring the beauty of the mist, unaware that death has silently descended. On the field, all the Japanese stand at attention, singing their national anthem. Just as the anthem echoing imperial rule resonates through the mountains, the Seediq warriors descend like wild beasts, their 20 years of pent-up fury exploding from all directions onto the field. Screams of terror, desperate cries for help, and the enraged roars of the Seediq warriors intertwine. The ground of the school is stained red with blood, and the Japanese officials, police, and their families who once considered themselves a superior race are powerless against this sudden primal slaughter. What makes this scene truly chilling is the Seediq's strict code during the raid. They even distinguish the indigenous women dressed in kimonos, urging them to take cover. This massacre, though brutal, has a precise target. Only those Japanese colonizers who oppressed them stole their hunting grounds and stripped them of their dignity. In this hellscape, the most tormented souls belong to Hanako Ichiro and Hanako Jiro. As the most assimilated indigenous police officers, their wives even wear Japanese kimonos. When the slaughter begins, Jiro desperately searches for his wife, Oyari Tado, amid the gunfire. They never raise their weapons against their own people. Jiro even opens the armory doors in the chaos, providing the rebels with crucial weapons and ammunition. These two men, caught between civilization and savagery, empire and bloodline, are doomed to the most tragic fate in the unfolding story. As the gunfire in the schoolyard gradually fades, Mona Rudao sits quietly on the high platform of the field, looking at the sea of corpses, at the young men whose hands are finally stained with blood and who are now worthy of entering the ancestral spirit home. His eyes hold no joy of victory, only endless sorrow and contemplation. The film Warriors of the Rainbow, Seediq Bale, Part 1, The Sun Flag, ends abruptly here. The director does not offer a cathartic revenge fantasy, but leaves us with a heavy, suffocating conclusion. The fog-shrouded field and scattered red cherry blossoms symbolize a rebellion that, though brilliant and poignant, was doomed from the start. Mona Rudao's blood sacrifice to the ancestors is, in truth, a suicidal charge that sacrifices the entire tribe. With this act of savage slaughter, they shatter the Japanese colonizers' myth of civilized reform. They reclaim their souls and the dignity of being Seediq Bale, but the cost is the loss of their physical world. For everyone knows that the Sun Empire's armies, more numerous than leaves, along with their artillery and planes, will soon sweep through Wushe like a storm. What awaits the Seediq is true annihilation. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Next time, we'll analyze Warriors of the Rainbow, Seediq Bale, Part 2, The Rainbow Bridge. See you there.